Do you think you know the whole truth about Pope Francis's death? Think again, because this video might change everything. Never-before-seen footage, suspicious gaps in the timeline, and a series of strange events behind the Vatican doors, all waiting to be uncovered in today's investigation. This is not just a story about a great pope, but a journey revealing secrets that could shake the very foundations of the Catholic Church. Do you believe something is being hidden around Pope Francis's death? If yes, leave a 1. If not, comment 0. Enjoy the video and don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Beneath the solemn veil surrounding Pope Francis's death lies a series of puzzling details and time gaps that have left the world questioning. From the unusual silence of the Vatican on the day he passed, to ancient prophecies said to have accurately foretold his death, his successor, and even his final meeting with the U.S. Vice President, all point to one thing: the Vatican is hiding records they will go to great lengths to keep concealed. Yes, the Vatican publicly displays calmness and strives to quell all rumors. But as history has shown, great secrets cannot remain hidden forever. In today's video, we will unveil 6 classified files the Church doesn't want you to know, starting with what happened in the 6 hours following Pope Francis's death. According to centuries-old tradition, every minute following a pope's death is meticulously recorded with strict protocol. However, on April 21, 2025, after the Vatican confirmed that Pope Francis passed away at 7:35 a.m. at his residence, Casa Santa Marta, a strange gap emerged. 6 hours later, around 1:35 p.m., the official records become surprisingly vague. The Vatican explained that this period was simply time for funeral preparations and receiving the sad news. The only public event announced during this time frame was Cardinal Kevin Farrell's statement at 9:45 a.m. But after that, a prolonged silence ensued, with no public information released exactly at 1:35 p.m. A mysterious gap shrouds what could be the most critical hours in the entire posthumous process. Traditionally, Cardinal Farrell, in his role as Camerlengo of the Roman Church, likely sealed the Pope's private apartment, safeguarding confidential documents and personal relics until the election of the new Pope. Meanwhile, senior Vatican officials were probably receiving and coordinating condolences from heads of state, organizing the transfer of the Pope's body to St. Peter's Basilica on April 23rd and preparing for the funeral on April 26th. In the Vatican's meeting rooms, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, the Dean of the College of Cardinals, summoned cardinals from around the world to Rome to prepare for the conclave to elect the new pope. Meanwhile, at Casa Santa Marta, staff quietly prepared the ceremony to officially confirm the pope's death and place his body in the coffin, which took place at 8:01 p.m. that same day in the ground floor chapel. This solemn ceremony, presided over by Cardinal Farrell, marked the conclusion of the funeral rites on the first day. Outside St. Peter's Square, a somber atmosphere gradually took hold. By midday, crowds had begun to gather in the square to pray and bid farewell to the Pope, a powerful testament to the immense impact he left behind. Residents of Rome and international visitors lit candles and offered prayers, creating an unprecedented and deeply moving scene. In Argentina, his homeland, Thousands gathered at the Buenos Aires Cathedral to honor their fellow countrymen who rose to become the most powerful figure in the Catholic Church. Meanwhile, in Mexico City, a solemn mass was held at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, where the faithful expressed deep admiration for the Pope, who had always shown a special empathy and understanding toward Latin American culture. Yet behind the emotion and ceremonies, a pressing question remains unanswered. What truly happened during those 6 hours, and why did the Vatican allow this gap to exist in the historical record? But the mystery surrounding those 6 hours goes beyond mere curiosity. It touches the core of tradition, ritual, and a suspicious silence. According to the regulations set forth in the Constitution Universi Dominici Gregis, when a pope dies, all subsequent actions must follow a strict and precise order. However, the discrete nature of the sede vacante period, the time of the vacant seat, causes public records to become fragmented and incomplete. What discussions took place among the cardinals during that time? Were the initial decisions about the conclave rushed? Or were important details intentionally omitted from official announcements? Cardinal Kevin Farrell, as Camerlengo, assumed temporary leadership of the Vatican during the sede vacante period, overseeing daily operations and preparing for the conclave set to begin on May 7, 2025. The Church's transfer of power was quietly but decisively set in motion, marking the beginning of a new era. That evening at 8:02 p.m., Dr. Andrea Arcangeli released the official medical report, listing the cause of the Pope's death as respiratory diseases, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. The report was issued by the Vatican press office, seemingly transparent, but is it the whole truth? In an institution built on centuries of tradition and secrecy, these strange gaps in the timeline serve as an invitation for researchers to question what truly happened behind the closed doors of the Vatican as the Church entered this pivotal transition. When these facts were buried just hours after the Pope's death, the next file that emerges is something that has quietly existed long before: the Bedside prophecies. Long before the world knew of April 21, 2025, the day Pope Francis passed away, prophecies about him had quietly been passed down through generations. The second file that the Vatican seemingly wants to keep hidden contains chilling predictions about his death. Forecasts made centuries ago that are believed to not only reference the passing of Francis, but also reveal the future fate of the entire Catholic Church. Among the most notable are the vague quatrains of Michel de Nostradamus, the 16th century French astrologer. In his famous collection, Les Prophéties, published in 1555, Nostradamus wrote about the passing of an elderly pope and the selection of a successor who might weaken the papal throne, but would reign for a long time. Following the death of Pope Francis, many immediately saw this prophecy as fulfilled, with Francis passing at age 88 and a successor soon to be chosen. Another, even more controversial quatrain speaks of a dark-skinned youth handing a purse to one dressed in red with the aid of a great king. This verse instantly sparked speculation about impending upheaval within the Vatican, with some believing it alludes to the Pope's successor. And with Nostradamus's famously ambiguous writing style, these lines have become highly open to multiple interpretations. What is particularly striking is the sudden resurfacing of these prophecies immediately following the Pope's death, a phenomenon the Vatican is clearly trying to avoid. What likely heightens the Vatican officials' concern even more is the prophecy of the popes, attributed to Saint Malachy, the 12th century Irish saint. The prophecy of Saint Malachy consists of 112 short Latin phrases, each believed to describe a pope, starting from Celestine II in 1143 to the final figure known as Peter the Roman. According to many interpretations, Pope Francis is considered the second to last in this list, with the final successor, Peter, destined to lead the Church through its final persecution. The prophecy ends with a haunting vision. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will be Peter the Roman, who will shepherd his flock through countless tribulations. And when all is ended, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the terrible judge will judge the people. An apocalyptic scenario, a fallen Rome, the final papacy before the day of judgment. Such imagery is clearly not something the Vatican wants to reveal or stir up during this sensitive moment of transition. Although the Catholic Church is founded on faith and divine revelation, it has always maintained distance from prophecies outside official doctrine. The Vatican has never recognized Nostradamus's quatrains or Saint Malachy's predictions, focusing solely on the Bible and the teachings of the magisterium. Nevertheless, the widespread circulation and uncanny coincidences between these prophecies and actual events have placed immense pressure on the Vatican, a challenge they cannot easily avoid. Scholars largely agree that the prophecy of Saint Malachy is a 16th century forgery, possibly created to influence the outcome of a papal election. Similarly, Nostradamus's quatrains are often regarded as abstract poetry, more symbolic than specific predictions. Many researchers believe that the ambiguity of these verses allows them to be retroactively matched to almost any major event in human history. Notably, Pope Francis himself has on occasion spoken candidly about his own mortality. Early in his papacy, he remarked, "This won't last long." He also did not hide his health struggles, including severe bouts of pneumonia in early 2025. However, these statements were simply the honest reflections of an elderly man confronting his physical limits, not prophecies. Yet amid the mysterious circumstances surrounding his passing, it becomes difficult to distinguish where prophecy ends, coincidence begins, and unanswered mysteries remain. On social media, the frenzy over prophecies not only failed to subside, but intensified, even fueling fabricated claims like, "The Simpsons predicted the Pope's date of death." These falsehoods spread rapidly before being debunked as completely baseless. The digital age has created a perfect environment for both ancient and modern prophecies, whether true or false, to spread like never before, directly challenging the efforts of institutions accustomed to controlling historical narratives in silence. For the Vatican, these prophecies are more than mere modern superstition. They are weaving a parallel narrative around Pope Francis's death. While the official message praises his devoted life and unwavering faithfulness to the gospel, the prophecies imply that his passing is part of a grand divine plan, a prelude to monumental, perhaps tragic events humanity has yet to witness. If this is indeed the case, then the files containing these prophetic connections are likely what the Vatican most wants to keep buried. However, while the Vatican struggles to quell the rapidly spreading wave of speculation, they maintain full control over another file, one they have tightly held from the beginning: the truth about the Pope's final health crisis. The third file, considered one of the most sensitive documents, contains the complete medical records of Pope Francis, particularly the previously undisclosed details about the life-and-death battle he faced in 2025. While official statements sought to portray a peaceful and dignified decline, the reality was far more brutal, plunging both the medical team and the Vatican's internal circle into a genuine crisis. The fateful turning point began on February 14, 2025, when the Pope was rushed to Gelli Hospital in Rome with an initial diagnosis of bronchitis. However, what seemed like a manageable illness quickly progressed into severe bilateral pneumonia, causing the alveoli in his lungs to fill with fluid and pus, obstructing oxygen from reaching the bloodstream. The situation worsened when he developed mild kidney failure and severe anemia, requiring blood transfusions and hematin treatment on February 22nd. But what few knew, and what the Vatican did not disclose, was that the real crisis occurred on February 28th, when the Pope aspirated vomit during sleep, causing acute respiratory failure. His blood oxygen saturation levels dropped to a dangerous low, pushing him to the brink between life and death. Chief physician Sergio Alfieri and the medical team faced a haunting decision: continue aggressive treatment with the risk of irreversible damage to his kidneys and bone marrow, or stop and let the Pope pass away peacefully. In that critical moment, hanging by a thread, Massimiliano Straight, the Pope's personal nurse and close medical assistant, made a heartfelt plea: do everything possible. Don't give up. That urgent call changed everything. The doctors decided to launch a final round of aggressive treatment using strong medication and non-invasive ventilation to save the Pope's life. Dr. Alfieri later admitted that he and the medical team did not expect to succeed, highlighting the true severity of the situation at the time. Despite fighting for his life, the Pope remained remarkably alert, demanding to be fully updated on his condition, demonstrating the transparency and proactive spirit that became a hallmark of his papacy. By March 10, 2025, the Pope's condition was no longer critical, but doctors warned that his recovery would be long and challenging. After 38 days in the hospital, the longest treatment period of his papacy, the Pope was discharged on March 23rd and returned to the Vatican with instructions to rest and continue treatment for another 2 months. However, his health journey had been ongoing for a long time. At age 21, the Pope underwent surgery to remove part of a lung due to a severe infection, damage that affected his respiratory system throughout his life. More recently, in July 2021, he had a partial colectomy to treat diverticulitis, and in June 2023, he underwent hernia surgery, both times requiring hospital stays of over a week. Additionally, he lived with a range of chronic conditions, including sciatica that caused persistent leg pain and knee problems that made walking difficult. In his final months, the Pope often appeared using a wheelchair, walker, or cane, and notably, He never hid these challenges, which deeply resonated with the Catholic community living with disabilities. The official cause of death on April 21, 2025, was determined to be a stroke, followed by coma and irreversible circulatory failure. Dr. Andrea Arangeli's medical report, released that evening, also noted other factors such as bilateral polymicrobial pneumonia, bronchiectasis, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. However, what the Vatican has seldom emphasized is the cumulative toll of numerous long-standing health issues, and above all, Pope Francis's extraordinary resilience. Even as his body was failing, he made his final appearance in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday, April 20th, just one day before his passing, to bless the faithful. A final act and a silent yet profoundly sacred farewell. The Vatican has released partial information about the Pope's health condition, but when it comes to what truly happened in his final hours, the timing and manner of announcing his death, they have remained completely silent. The question arises, why was the announcement of the Pope's death delayed? And what occurred during that pause period that the entire world has yet to learn about? The fourth file that the Vatican likely wants to keep most secret concerns the timing of Pope Francis's death announcement, along with the puzzling delay that followed. According to official reports, the Pope passed away at 7:35 a.m. on April 21, 2025, at his residence, Casa Santa Marta, located within Vatican City. However, it wasn't until 9:45 a.m., over 2 hours later, that Cardinal Kevin Farrell, Camerlengo of the Roman Church, officially announced this news to the world. This period of silence is highly unusual for an institution renowned for its strict protocols, especially concerning the death of a pope. The delay immediately sparked numerous questions. What truly happened during those 130 minutes? Who was the first to learn of the Pope's passing? And why did it take over 2 hours for the news to reach the public? Cardinal Farrell's statement, polished and solemn, was broadcast live on Vatican media and widely shared across social networks, marking the official start of the national mourning period. However, it came after a prolonged silence during which only a select group within the Vatican knew of the Pope's death, as the world watched his every last breath. To this day, the Vatican has never disclosed the details of what transpired during that obscure period. Traditionally, the Camerlengo's duty is to confirm the Pope's death by calling his baptismal name 3 times without response. This is followed by the sealing of the Pope's private apartment and urgent notification of the Vatican's senior officials. Everything is carried out discreetly, yet it is precisely this discretion that creates an inexplicable gap in the official record. Delays in announcing a pope's death are not unheard of in church history, but in the digital age where information spreads instantly, such prolonged silence becomes a suspicious blackout, opening the door to countless theories. Did the Vatican need time to coordinate how to present the Pope's passing? Did they consult medical experts about the cause of death, or hold behind-the-scenes discussions about the schedule for the upcoming papal conclave? It's also important to note that Pope Francis passed away on a Monday morning, just after Easter, a sensitive time that could have affected the speed of gathering key personnel, even though most senior officials reside within Vatican City itself. What's strange is that just hours earlier, he appeared publicly in St. Peter's Square, seated in a wheelchair, blessing thousands of faithful, showing no clear signs that death was imminent. So when the announcement was delayed by over 2 hours and 10 minutes, many couldn't help but wonder, is there something the Vatican is deliberately hiding? Perhaps that something lies within the fifth file, a document the Holy See likely wants to keep buried deepest in its archives, the last person to meet Pope Francis alive. According to multiple reliable sources, the last private meeting Pope Francis had before his passing was with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. This meeting took place on Easter Sunday, April 20th, 2025, just hours before the Pope took his final breath. It was described as a brief, symbolic greeting at the Pope's residence, occurring right before his final appearance from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica to bless the gathered faithful below, even though his health had already severely declined. The timing of the meeting has sparked considerable public curiosity. J.D. Vance, a converted Catholic serving under President Donald Trump's second term, did not visit the Vatican in any official diplomatic capacity. His unexpected presence in Rome on Easter Sunday, combined with the undisclosed content of his conversation with the Pope, absent from any public records, has made the story both sensitive and shrouded in mystery. As this may have been the Pope's final meeting with an outsider before his passing, the content of their conversation, even if merely formal, carries significant historical weight. Notably, at that time, his health was stable enough for a public appearance, yet less than 24 hours later, he suffered a stroke and died. The timing coincidence between this diplomatic meeting and the Pope's sudden death became a focal point of speculation. On social media, questions like "what did he say to the Pope?" and "what really happened during that meeting?" spread rapidly. Typically, papal audiences, especially with high-ranking officials, are meticulously recorded and officially archived. Yet in this case, no information about the duration, content, or the Pope's demeanor has been released. The fact that Mr. Vance was a key figure in the Trump administration adds another layer of complexity. During Trump's first term, tensions between Pope Francis and the administration were significant, revolving around issues such as immigration, climate change, and economic policy. So was this final meeting a gesture of reconciliation, a final symbol, or is there something else the world has yet to uncover? Whatever the case may be, the fact that a U.S. vice president, informally, was the last person to meet privately with Pope Francis before his passing will undoubtedly become a notable footnote in the history of the Catholic Church. To this day, the Vatican remains completely silent on the matter. Was that final meeting between the U.S. Vice President and Pope Francis merely a formal handshake, a ceremonial gesture on Easter, or was it a moment laden with deeper meaning? Perhaps a reconciliation after tension, or even a strategic exchange unknown to the world? So far, all speculation remains just that, as no official records confirm the content of that final conversation. The only thing the public knows is that after the meeting and his final blessing, Pope Francis returned to Casa Santa Marta to rest. Just a few hours later, at 7:35 a.m. on April 21, 2025, he suddenly suffered a stroke, fell into a coma, and never regained consciousness. The Vatican has offered no further comments on this meeting, a silence consistent with the tradition of keeping private audiences confidential, especially when political figures are involved. However, in this case, if it truly was the final meeting before a pope's passing, the silence surrounding that moment becomes a significant gap in the flow of Vatican history. It is not merely an overlooked detail, but a mysterious void that historians, biographers, and Vatican scholars of the future will undoubtedly spend considerable time exploring and interpreting. During the transition of power at the Holy See, the identity of the last person privately received by the Pope often carries profound symbolic meaning, sometimes regarded as the final message of a closing papacy, serving as a metaphorical signal for the Church's future. The surprising fact is that this distinction did not belong to a trusted cardinal, a personal aide, or a powerful figure within the Curia, but to a U.S. vice president, representing an administration that had experienced a notably strained relationship with the Pope. This detail makes the meeting more unusual than ever, and serves as an enigmatic ellipsis, hinting at the complex and multifaceted legacy Pope Francis leaves behind for the world. As the conclave to elect the new pope began, this meeting remained one of the least illuminated pieces in the entire story. It was a private moment between two highly influential figures, yet because of its timing, it became a historical symbol far beyond what either could have imagined at the time. This encounter was not merely an exchange of information, but carried the weight of hopes, anxieties, and the formidable challenges awaiting the Vatican. If you think all the secrets have been revealed, prepare yourself for the final chapter, the one the Vatican most wants to bury, the conspiracies. The sixth file, and also the most sensitive in this series of secrets, compiles the various conspiracy theories surrounding Pope Francis's death, along with the Vatican's internal assessment of their impact on both the Church and global society. In the age of information explosion, where the line between truth and fiction is increasingly blurred by the power of social media, the Vatican was forced to confront an unprecedented scenario. A storm of conspiracy theories erupting fiercely even before the Pope took his last breath. Early in 2025, when the Pope was hospitalized with pneumonia, waves of fake news began flooding platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. Numerous fabricated posts about his death appeared, accompanied by digitally altered images showing the Pope in critical condition, wearing an oxygen mask, or lying motionless in a hospital bed. This sparked a frenzy of misinformation that caused widespread confusion and alarm worldwide. The Vatican, known for its secrecy and strict control over information, was forced to break with long-standing tradition to publicly deny these false rumors. They declared, "Fake news is in itself an accusation. We are committed to providing transparent and consistent information." However, this denial was not enough to quell the growing frenzy spreading across social media. In response to the rapid spread of misinformation, a social media analytics company named Sabra stepped in and identified over 3,600 accounts spreading information about the Pope's health, approximately one-third of which were fake bots programmed to amplify false news. Cardinal Gianfranco Ravasi described this as an atmosphere poisoned by misinformation and even publicly dismissed baseless rumors that the Vatican was freezing the Pope's body as part of a secret plot. When Pope Francis actually passed away on April 21, 2025, the entire ecosystem of conspiracy theories was already in place, merely awaiting the right moment to explode. Immediately, a strange rumor linked to the meeting with J.D. Vance surfaced. What did the vice president say? Ambiguous questions rapidly spread across social media. After the funeral on April 26, a video rapidly circulated claiming that the ceremony included a satanic ritual with occult symbols and inverted crosses. However, Reuters quickly verified and confirmed that the footage was actually from a Holy Week procession in Spain and had no connection to the Vatican. Moreover, a 2014 photo capturing the Pope shaking hands with Eleazar Grinfeld, a Holocaust survivor, was distorted and spread as evidence of a connection between the Vatican and the Rothschild family, a familiar target in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. The distortion of information, combined with long-standing skepticism about the Vatican's transparency, has created fertile ground for conspiracy theories to spread relentlessly. Ironically, the Holy See's centuries-old reputation for secrecy and discretion has made it more vulnerable than ever to attacks. The surge of conspiracy theories surrounding Pope Francis's death echoes similar phenomena that followed Queen Elizabeth II's passing. A sign that any major transition of power in modern history carries the risk of being distorted, exploited, and manipulated. Some conspiracy theories may simply be jokes or social media teasers, but many are sophisticated, organized campaigns aimed at undermining the Vatican's credibility or promoting extremist, hostile ideologies. In internal assessments, the Vatican clearly distinguishes between spontaneous speculation and systematic disinformation campaigns, a challenge they must confront in an era where truth is increasingly threatened and challenged by the rapid spread of false information. In today's world, where truth is increasingly fragile and elusive, the Vatican's secret dossier analyzing the conspiracy theories surrounding Pope Francis's death stands as a clear testament to how one of the oldest institutions on the planet must evolve and adapt to survive and thrive in a turbulent era. And this dossier is also the final file in the series of 6 secrets that the Church likely never wanted the public to know. Beyond restructuring the College of Cardinals, Pope Francis leaves behind a mixed legacy in his efforts to tackle corruption and scandals within Vatican institutions. Although progress was made in financial reforms and increasing transparency, the complexity of Vatican structures and strong internal resistance made implementing his vision challenging. While these efforts had an impact, comprehensive change was far from complete, and these issues will remain significant challenges for his successor. Pope Francis's reform initiatives included freezing numerous Vatican bank accounts, establishing new oversight bodies, and rigorously promoting financial transparency. Most notably, he took decisive action against Cardinal Angelo Becciu, removing him from key positions within the Curia and launching investigations into financial misconduct. This move clearly demonstrated Pope Francis's commitment to confronting corruption head-on. even when it meant holding the highest-ranking church officials accountable. However, some critics argue that Pope Francis has at times shown excessive leniency in handling corruption. In 2023, he encouraged Vatican auditors to balance transparency with cautious compassion when addressing corruption cases, an approach some viewed as undermining accountability. His preference for internal solutions over more public, forceful measures drew criticism from those advocating for tougher actions. The prolonged scandals and resistance from within Vatican institutions show that corruption remains an urgent and serious issue the Church must confront. Pope Francis's death leaves many reforms unfinished, placing his successor in a position to choose whether to continue pursuing the policies and approaches he established or to chart a new course. This decision becomes even more crucial as the Church urgently needs deep renewal to address long-standing challenges. Maintaining or changing these reforms will have a decisive impact on the Church's future direction and how it handles its complex internal challenges. Pope Francis's legacy is particularly complex when it comes to the Church's response to sexual abuse cases. Although he implemented important measures to address the issue, such as meeting victims personally, issuing public apologies, and dissolving organizations accused of involvement, many survivors and advocacy groups still believe these actions are insufficient. They call on the Church to undertake more comprehensive and forceful reforms to protect the vulnerable and completely prevent future misconduct. A particularly notable aspect of Pope Francis's legacy is his profound and comprehensive approach to social justice and environmental stewardship. His 2015 encyclical Laudato Si on caring for our common home not only established him as a leading voice in the fight against climate change and environmental protection, but also skillfully connected ecological concerns with Catholic social teaching. Additionally, Pope Francis's steadfast support for migrants, refugees, and economically disadvantaged communities is a defining feature of his papacy. This has earned him widespread praise for compassionate leadership, while also drawing criticism from groups seeking a more traditional focus for the Church. There is no denying that Pope Francis's papacy has left a profound and lasting mark on the history of the Catholic Church. His relentless efforts to build a more pastoral and flexible institution, his special attention to marginalized communities, and his courage in confronting difficult challenges, though imperfect, have reshaped the Church's image and mission in ways that will continue to resonate long after his passing. Pope Francis leaves behind a complex legacy, but it is undeniable that his reforms have transformed how the Church engages with the world and addresses contemporary social issues. The coming weeks will reveal much about the future direction of the Church in the post-Francis era. Will his successor continue the reform initiatives or choose a different path? Will the divisions within Catholicism be healed or deepened further? And will the Vatican embrace greater transparency in its operations or revert to traditional institutional secrecy? These questions await answers as smoke rises from the Sistine Chapel, currently black but soon likely to turn white, signaling the announcement of a new pope and the beginning of a new chapter in the rich and complex history of the Catholic Church. As we conclude the journey through these top-secret files, perhaps the most fitting tribute to Pope Francis is to recognize both aspects of his legacy, the institution and the man. To look deeper into the decisions made behind the Vatican's doors, while also remembering his loving heart, tireless spirit of service, and the courage with which he faced death peacefully. Thank you for watching until the very end. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the thumbnails appearing on your screen to continue exploring more untold stories. Don't forget to subscribe to join us on this journey of uncovering hidden truths and together embracing a Vatican history that is both challenging and deeply meaningful.